I had to make sure I wasn't dreaming when he said what he said. So, but I'm
here, of course, joined with Nick Bodkins of the Bodkins Show. Nick.
Welcome, folks. It is a lovely Monday evening. I am the Bodkins of the Buffoon and Bodkins, and joined just now in the nick of time. I was about to bury him. The Buffoon is here, folks, off his vacation, running behind, but he has showed up just in time. Give it up, Tanner. Welcome back, man. Welcome back.
Thanks, dude. Glad to be back here.
How was before we get into it? How was vacation?
It's fabulous. Milwaukee is a wonderful city to go to. Tons to do, and I saw like 5 baseball games in a row. What can I say? Like it was awesome. It was great. Great beer, great drinks, great environment. Can't complain.
Yeah, I mean, you ruined our stream on Monday, so
I did.
If you cut us out, we had to relog in just as I was getting into it with the Redbird Nation there. But we had a lot of fun. We talked a lot of fantasy, talked to Kyler Murray situation. So if you missed that on last Monday, it's still split in 2 episodes, but check it out there. We got the ball rolling. I was able to keep this, the car somewhat on the tracks while you were gone.
Yeah, and
you come and derailed it. Said, "Oh, they're going to try to get rid of me on my own dang show. I'm just going to go here and mess this up real quick."
Yeah, so I hopped on on my cell phone. If you guys haven't used StreamYard before, the top right on the desktop, I guess top right here, but top right for me is right here, and it says live or in broadcast. Well, if you do it off your phone, everything's down below on the where the Leaf Studios and mute stuff is. Oh, just me thinking of the computer way. Yeah, I hit end broadcast, and then I was like, why am I still on? So I hit Leaf Studio, and I was walking up the ramp to go to the tunnel, and I was like, I just ended the stream.
You did.
Holy crap.
You sabotaged us. But hey, we're back.
That's right. You guys did pretty well after that. I'd say you guys are good.
It's not the first time I crashed a car, was able to steer it right back on the road.
That's right. AKA Eagles Podcast. Yo, what's good, guys? Hey, man. Thanks for joining in. So, yeah. Hey, guys, we got a wonderful show today. Quite the lineup going into play. Once again, because that's what we do on Buffoon and Bodkins. We're going to start out here and talk a little Deshaun Watson with Wojo. He is a lawyer. I believe he has a law firm. And then he also does podcasts for Draft 5. So it's going to be really great to have. Big Cleveland Browns fan. We'll get him into play. And then we'll have, let's see here. We got that. Ryan Larrison on around 8 p.m. Central. Talk some fantasy football. Got some things to talk with him about. Get his feel and thoughts on a few players. And then we'll hit baseball after that. Because the trade deadline is, I believe, tomorrow. So there's already been tons of moves going into play. And then after that, we'll do the Bodkins UFC Minute and just wrap it up from there. So, lots of great things going in today. And then next shift, Randy, what's up, man? Thanks for joining in. So, should be quite a good show here going into things. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Hey, thanks a lot, Randy. Hey, so before Woj comes on here, I mean, that's the biggest news of the day. It came out, I mean, about as soon as I woke up this morning that Deshaun Watson was getting the six games. What's your feeling here on this 6 games? I mean, it sounds like the NFL is going to go ahead and take that. The NFL, you knew it was going to be something small because when the NFLPA put out something last night, late last night at that, was pretty much, hey, we're willing to accept whatever this judge says. So I think they had an inkling that it wasn't going to be the year that the NFL wanted, and NFL honor the judge that you put. It sounds like Rodgers can still say no, and we're going to, punish our own way, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. So what's your initial reaction here before we talk to Woj on this 6 games for Deshaun Watson?
I don't know. It's just kind of a whole interesting case. We've been talking for what, 2 years now. I think we're going on to play. It seems like, right. And it's a lot of them have been, paid, whatever you want to say, right? And, you can look at it in two different ways. You can look at it, hey, we're just getting off his back, just so he can continue to live his life. And some people will take that as a mission of guilt. And it's a really, really tough deal there going into play, trying to judge this thing, because you don't know a solid verdict, because he never got, every jury he's been to, they dismissed it. And not dismissed it, but they, essentially it never got to the point where he's guilty. So it's really hard to take one whole route to it of looking at it. Hey, this guy's fully guilty, right? 28 freaking people. For God's sakes, I hope this guy finds a certain massage person so he can not have 28 freaking people while he's in Cleveland. But on the other side of things, you look at the whole other spectrum, it's like kind of like the Tyreek Hill situation where they had to almost admit guilt. And there was a recording later on, if you guys don't know, for Tyreek Hill during his second debacle a couple years ago, where his girlfriend or wife or whatever she was at the time basically admitted on tape that he didn't do it, essentially. Like, I'm going to do this. Da, da, da. So it could be that kind of way, too, of just a bunch of girls getting in. I think there's only one case right now left going into play that has not been settled. So it's just, I don't know. It's just a kind of, I don't really have a strong feeling one way or another. I'm kind of anxious to hear more info still, just for the fact that, there was a Robinson that, made the decision for the NFL currently is, 15-page report, went through all the, the cases. I think she read, over about, in the end, 100 or 1,000 pages they said on Pat's show today, and it's, I don't know, man. I don't really have a feeling one way or another. There's this side, a little bit of this side, a little bit of this side, but it's just sad that they're in the situation to begin with.
I'm kind of with you. The thing of it is, there's not really any real precedent, right? I guess maybe because you don't really know what happened. We just know it was 32 or whatever it was women that come out and spoke out against them, which is a lot. I mean, that is a lot of different people. So I mean, all of them, maybe some of them at the end was like jumped on the the train, as far as like getting some money and things like that. But that's still way too many masseuses.
That's a lot. It's still a lot.
But here's the thing. Like, I mean, they suspended who was it? Ridley for a whole year for betting. Yeah, Calvin Ridley. Thank you, AK Eagles. That's exactly what I was getting ready to say. Is Calvin Ridley got a longer suspension than Watson, and he bet one crappy game on FanDuel when he wasn't playing. It's not like he was playing. I think that's it's not a Pete Rose situation. He was away from the team. And I mean, I guess it is a little insider-esque type trading stuff. Like, might know a little bit what's going on in the locker room,
right?
But I mean, put a parlay together for like 15,000, and parlay didn't even hit. So, and then he's suspended for a full year. We've seen what Tom Brady got deflating balls. What was it? 4 games for deflating balls. We've seen other suspensions. I think Ben Roethlisberger got 6 games originally, and it got 4 games way back about a decade ago
because he appealed on that. Yeah,
similar situation, but less women. That was like 2 or 3 women, not 32. I mean, I've told you my theory before, and I'll stand by this. I believe the 22 women, that was whatever it was before, that's what he was suspended for last year in a hush-hush deal. Because I don't believe that the Texans just sat him down, said, hey, you don't want to play here, you're not going to play here. How many times in all sports across all the decades that a player is asked to be traded and they weren't traded, but guess what that team did? They ran his butt out there, and he started and played. So just because Deshaun didn't want to play last year, he didn't play amidst all this? No, I don't believe that. I believe it was a suspension last year. These new 6 games is for the ones they didn't know about. Remember, they just come out a couple weeks ago like, we didn't know about these 4 or 5, Deshaun. You didn't tell us these 4 or 5. All right, so you're going to get the 6 games for these 4 or 5. I firmly believe that is exactly what happened. I mean, I have no proof other than just my own theory. And I mean, and that's just what I think.
Yeah, and I think it was right around the Ray Rice deal that happened. that you really got hit for it initially because Ray Rice was able to come back until the video dropped. And I think they came back out and try to justify their reasoning for certain suspensions is it's in different brackets, right? So I'm sure gambling's in one bracket, assault, whatever, domestic violence, it's all in different brackets. So they're all going to get different suspensions. As bad as that looks on the NFL, they do, that's kind of what they came out and said. I think the NBA even came back out and said something similar with that as well. So that was, I don't know, it's just a lot of craziness with the way they do their punishments, essentially.
It is. There's no, they just make up their own. 32 women. They make up their own dang rules. I'm trying to keep it PG here as much as I can. I'm struggling. But they just Rodgers does his own thing. They make up their own rules. The NFL makes up their own rules. There is no precedent for anything. Appreciate the take. Yeah, a lot of people aren't saying that, which I'm surprised that hasn't been pointed. I feel like I'm on, but when I point that out to people about the year thing, people are like, yeah, this makes sense. But I mean, how does Tom Brady, who deflated some balls in a game that was a blowout that didn't even matter, gets 4 games, and then you're telling me a guy who has 32 women, 32 sexual allegations only gets 2 more games than that? Makes no sense. I mean, it's no rhyme or reason. I mean, that's what happens when you're the judge, jury, and executioner for Roger Goodell. And he's not, from what I've read, and I will have to confirm when Woj comes on, is he's not getting fined. And they even made it, the Browns specialized that deal to where if he did get fined, it was only going to be like $66,000 with the game.
Yeah, it wasn't going to be a chump change, essentially. Yeah. So, let's bring on Wojo here. Punk Law 101, legal news and comedy podcast, Draft Vice, a football podcast, Let's Talk Sports contributor, Wojo. Welcome in, man.
What's up, guys? How you been? How you doing?
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Let me know if any of my audio comes off a little weird. I'll adjust things as we.
It sounds good on my
side.
Awesome.
So I'm doing well. Thanks for all the sites to everything. Punk Law, Draft Vice, Let's Talk Sports. You guys are involved with Let's Talk Sports, right?
Yeah, that's right. We are.
Little logo right there.
Yeah,
that's right, man. We're definitely involved with it. So.
Yeah, Dan's a good dude. I love doing our show. But I'm glad to be on here. Glad to go ahead and get to talk a little bit. Maybe not glad is the best term, because to talk about the Deshaun Watson situation, it's not the happiest time in the world dealing with that, just because hi Randy, how you doing?
Look at Randy there.
It's not the happiest thing in the world, because I mean I've read a lot of the petitions in this. Now, granted, he has settled all but one lawsuit. The last 3 he settled last night. He's got 1 lawsuit left. So I've read a lot of the petitions, the alleged conduct, the news articles on it. We'll talk about all the stuff regarding the Susan Robinson, the arbiter's opinion. I read that today as well. So with that, it's a lot of like seedy, weird conduct, and it's I don't know if you want me to go into that. Like, again, he's what he was accused of in those civil lawsuits. None of it. Again, there was kind of like levels here, right? He's not necessarily like, outside of like 2 examples, I think, of all the 20 something, nearly 30, complaining witnesses or plaintiffs, depending on the civil versus criminal. Not all of them alleged like hardcore, like criminal violent, like most of them did not even allege that. Most of them alleged that he did something like touched him with his eggplant area. I'm trying to keep this as PG as possible. I'm so used to
Let's Talk
nowadays
Sports,
where you gotta use euphemisms and stuff.
Yeah. And you did TikTok, right? So you did a TikTok. I saw a few of them of some of those cases and explaining that.
Yeah, so I broke down all the petitions. So keep in mind, the petitions are written from the point of view of the complaining party, the plaintiffs in the lawsuits. So they're not, they haven't been under deposition, but they are under oath. They are, they're expected to be corroborated, right? And some of the more later ones included excerpts of depositions that had either been, included plaintiffs or Deshaun Watson's deposition even, or some witnesses' depositions that had included into those petitions. So there's a lot of it that is under oath that we've been able to glean into. So I broke down a few of them. I didn't break down every single one. There's 24 of them. And they just get sad after a while. And breaking them down into like a minute to 3 minute segments gets like, how do you explain to people like, like all these little things to it, and in a way that's not going to just kind of doom and gloom them out. So go ahead. I apologize. I talk forever. I apologize.
Oh, no, you're good. I just wanted to add, like, so it sounds like was he just like, showing his meat to these girls? Was that the big thing? Was like, he's just out here showing his meat? Because you said he was like, kind of.
Oh, not just showing them though. That's the thing that kind of
showing them and touching them. Like, I mean,
yeah, there was groping. There was he was touching them with the penis, trying to find ways. So I apologize. I don't know if you guys believe that.
You're fine. You're fine.
All right, good.
Okay.
Touching them with his member. Trying to cause like incidental contact, which like, oh, I did it by accident, but you did it by accident 20 something times. Like, it's not like you did it by I did it by accident once as an accident. I did it by accident 20 times. It's not an accident anymore, sir.
Right.
Exactly.
There was a couple of times where he started masturbating or humping. I can't even like I said, the conduct is so hard. You have a hard time like trying to keep it to the PG level, because he's doing things that are not like, he was doing things to a table at one point. In the Texans lawsuit, which I never broke down. I might still break it down because I know they settled 30 of them. They settled more. So they settled with more plaintiffs than there were plaintiffs against Deshaun Watson. They settled with 30 women. Complaints against them. They actually only had one complaint filed, but they just settled with everybody. They said, you know what? We're not saying we did anything wrong. We're not condoning his conduct. What we were saying is we understand we might have screwed up. We take this seriously, and here we'll give you what you want. We don't want. They really just didn't want to go to court and have to have their own people depose. Imagine having Cal McNair depose for 30 depositions.
Oh man.
Nah, so there was actually in one of the depositions, though, there was a massage therapist for the Houston Texans that was deposed, and she said there was an incident with Deshaun Watson where he kind of did something to the massage table, so to speak. So again, his conduct was well known. They paid for a hotel, or really they paid for a membership at a spa where he had a hotel room at the spa. Correct. Where he was technically not old enough to have a membership. And now you guys are getting exclusive content because I didn't break this down on anything.
There we go. Let's go.
Thanks,
this is all stuff, and I'm going from memory, but this is so he even borrowed a table from him at a certain point, and they gave him the NDA he started giving to massage therapists. And the real thing, and this is where the predatory element comes in, is that he started recruiting over Instagram less and less experienced massage therapists, or people who weren't even actually professional massage therapists. But he was like, oh, do you guys give massages? Come over to my house, or come over here. Well, oh, meet me at the hotel, or I'll fly you in from Georgia. So it went from the earlier allegations were people who were very reputable. And that was one of the videos I did, was saying listen, early on in March and in June, where the earlier lawsuits came up, where their initial incidences happened, they were very professional people. They were people who were reputable, had their own business for years, had dealt with other athletes in, football. I know, right, Randy? Exclusive stuff. And just again, reputable massage therapists. And by the time you got to September, October, he's flying people in from Georgia. There are anestheticians, there are beauticians, there are people who sell oils, there are people they're meeting him at his house. And it's and the other thing that was almost ubiquitous, or almost everything, was the towel trick. All 30 of them. It was I don't like using a draping. I want to use a tiny towel that I'm going to bring with me.
Yeah, I was he brought his own towel.
A little washcloth. Yeah, a little washcloth. This is my favorite washcloth that has all my favorite children.
Yeah, so it keeps on getting worse and worse. Yeah, all my favorite children. Oh my god, that must have been a sticky towel.
Whoa!
I hope he's got more than one towel. I hope he's a millionaire. He should have more than one towel. He was that first round pick, and then got an extension, then got the super extension. That I think is the more egregious element of the Browns stuff. We'll talk a bit about what the Browns did with that contract, where they yes, it insulates him. It does insulate him from the suspension. I don't think that was the necessary intention of that. A lot of teams design it so that your first year is mostly your signing bonus and you have a minimal salary the first year. It's just a salary cap thing.
Mhm.
So here I am defending the Browns, but I don't think they did their due diligence on this. But when they traded for him, Deshaun Watson had only sat for 2 depositions. One, he pled the fifth the entire time because the grand jury was still investigating him. And the second one happened the day he met with Jimmy Haslam in Texas.
Whoa,
I can keep going. If you just want me to keep riffing, I can just go with that. I've talked so much about this. I've know this stuff to the back. I shouldn't. I don't know why anymore. It's glued in there. His name should Howley from South Park. Oh my god. I hope South Park does an episode on this. I feel bad because there's so much elements of it that it's it is kind of borderline strangely funny, but not in a good way.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I mean, here's the thing. You alluded to it. I work as I'm a forensic interviewer, so it's interview kids type thing. So a predator, you're exactly right. When it's a predator, somebody who continues to prey on the weak, and he was going after the weaker and weaker people who were not, as certified. But my question is here: you alluded to the Texans. We haven't heard from the NFL. Or maybe you might know about, are they going to get in any sort of trouble after settling these legal firms? And now that, it seemed like the Texans obviously catered to his bad behavior and okay with it. Are the Browns somewhat doing that now with this contract situation? I mean, are they hey, we're going to, as long as you play out good on the field, we'll handle the rest of the masseuse stuff.
Well, they did by giving him all that money. Essentially, that's what they did. I don't think they're going to be found culpable for it because all the conduct happened prior and he settled all these cases. If there's something new that comes along down the line and they are found to have done something in the lines of what the Texans did, where they're giving him NDAs and they are aware of it because their own in-house massage therapists are saying something and their security people know stuff. And even the head of the massage therapy company that they bring in-house for had told them hey, he's going to get into trouble. He should not be going out and recruiting these people because he's going to get into legal trouble and he's going to end up getting sued and he might get COVID and he might be doing some weird things. So they were well aware that he should not have been. And that was kind of the issue with the Texans. Now, whether the NFL is going to hold them culpable, it's a little different because you're talking about vicarious liability there. That's what they were sued under. It's you are being sued because of what your employee did, but their employee is Deshaun Watson, who's currently, now not even with the team, now going to be punished, is currently being punished by the NFL. We're going to talk about that process in a second, and we just got that today, which should be, they're saying it's going to be a 6-game suspension because that's what Sue Robinson said. But again, the process isn't over at least for 3 more days. At least as far as we know. And then we'll find out if the NFL decides to appeal Sue Robinson's decision on that. But I don't know how the NFL is going to treat the Texans with that, especially because a lot of it's PR. And even from their own attorney who came out, every time they've settled these cases, he's made a very clear statement a lot of the time about it. So he's the one who's coming out and he's been the face a lot of it. Him and then Ashley Solis, the initial plaintiff in the case, have been the faces of these cases. He spoke glowingly of how the Texans handled it. So I don't know if they're really going to go hardcore at the Texans. It sounds like the Texans were apologetic, whereas Deshaun Watson has always been I have never done anything wrong. And that was his position throughout every proceeding so far. It was his last public statement, which is also why I have huge problems with the Browns, because they released a statement earlier saying he's I don't want to say contrite, but he's been remorse. He's been remorseful. But you can't say he's been remorseful when he hasn't even publicly acknowledged he did anything wrong. That's not remorse. That's the opposite of remorse. I'm not even saying that he's wrong for saying he didn't do anything wrong. That's, what, if you don't believe you did anything wrong, you don't believe you did anything wrong. You can be an innocent person and say you didn't do anything wrong. Disregarding the facts there for 2 seconds. I'm just saying in general, you could say I didn't do anything wrong. That's just not being remorseful. It's fine that you're not remorseful if you didn't do anything wrong. But you can't say he's been remorseful is what I'm saying.
Here's the thing. You listen to every athlete too, and we've said this before. Every athlete it's like $1 million, they take care of their body. I think LeBron James and Russell Wilson, they they spend almost $1 million plus on their bodies. So that, they're not going to let some Joe Schmo, masseuse company,
Instagram pretend
come take care of him. So he had it in his mind that he knew exactly what he was trying to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, and when we're talking about the predatory thing, the other thing that I noticed was that he went from only meeting them once to starting acting pervy to meeting them multiple times, and the contact got what he was doing got more and more egregious like he would meet with them and kind of scope them out to see if they were chill and everything.
Grooming.
How quick are they going to jump to me? Are they going to be okay? Are they going to react to this negatively? So there's a lot of them where he met them the first time. And it wasn't really a problem. They didn't really do anything. They didn't, he wore the towel. It was a little weird, but he didn't do anything wrong necessarily. So I didn't think anything of it. And then the second time around, that 24th lawsuit, where that was the one that everybody was like, this is when the NFL, I think, made the decision, you know what, stick them with a year. If we can get a year, and they might still go for the year because, part of that process is, I'll just go into it right now. The NFL. So Sue Robinson came out today, published her opinion, 16-page opinion, and said that, he's getting 6 games. Now the process here by the CBA is if she found no wrongdoing, the NFL had nothing to appeal. It's kind of like a criminal proceeding in that way. In which case there's almost like a double jeopardy element to it. You've already been tried. You don't get to be tried again. Mm-hmm. But if she finds that there was wrongdoing, the NFL gets to go ahead and then basically override her opinion as far as the punishment goes. So if she found 1 game, they could say 22 games. Like there doesn't have to be a rhyme or reason to it. But her job is the fact finder. She's the jury, but the NFL's kind of more of the judge and then the appellate judge kind of deal. So that was. Yeah, so like they can go ahead and override it, and that's what everybody's saying. You have to wait the 3 days because the NFL can turn around and say in 3 days, all right, we're going to appeal, and the appellate body is Roger Goodell. So Roger Goodell could be like, 1 year. Sorry, Deshaun, I get it that Sue Robinson doesn't agree, and then you get into the question of, well, are they going to fight it in federal district court in Delaware? Are they going to appeal? How much fighting are they going to have over this? Are they going to start trying to bring in some other contextual stuff? Like, are they going to try and fight over, the owners being held to a higher standard element that they were trying to put in there, which Sue Robinson references a little bit in the opinion. I think that was more to kind of give the idea to the NFL. It's like, listen, they're really, it can kind of go both ways because, to be fair, there really isn't a precedent. And she even admits that this is the most egregious thing the NFL's ever handled as far as this kind of stuff goes. Her opinion's a little bit of, I get where she was going with it, but there's like a little bit of how do I put it? She's saying that the NFL, this is the most egregious conduct ever. She's saying that, this is also a non-violent sexual assault.
Correct.
Is what she's saying. Which doesn't really make sense because I don't think there's such thing as a non-violent sexual assault, because if you really think about it, sexual assault by its nature is violent. It's by the nature of what you're saying. It doesn't have, just because like it's not like I beat you up or I threatened you with a knife.
Well, I think what she's trying to say is he didn't ever really touch anybody, right? As far as like,
well, he did touch people. That's the problem. He groped them. That's assault or battery, depending on the jurisdiction you're in. It's both either civil assault or criminal assault or battery. Again, New York calls criminal assault. I was just going with the semantics game over with somebody else who was an attorney in a different state, and I don't think they realized that this changes from state to state. But yeah, so it could be criminal assault, it could be criminal battery, it could be civil battery or civil assault, and so. Sometimes you lose the train of thought. So no, again, with Robinson, she's sitting there saying, "Listen, this is it wasn't violent, right? Like I think what she was trying to distinguish was this between the Ben Roethlisberger case, which was the same amount of games, but the difference was the Ben Roethlisberger case, first off, was 10 years ago, and the NFL has now instituted a bigger policy about that kind of stuff, and I guess they're trying to say that this isn't a violent." A sexual assault, which is kind of a weird concept. I understand what she's going with. I think even the NFL kind of maybe feels like that's not even the wrong idea necessarily. So it's a little bit of a mix because I don't think anybody knew how to handle this kind of a case.
So
she says it's unprecedented.
So is it maybe because there's no wording in there, essentially, unlike Big Ben's case, of rape, essentially. Nobody cried rape by any means. And is that because maybe that's why we're looking like a more 6 games versus, and for sure, full year?
I mean, I think that's maybe how she distinguishes it. I don't know if I agree with that definition or how she went about it, but at the end of the day, that is, I think, what her distinguishing element there is the difference between this case and Ezekiel Elliott and Ray Rice and Ben Roethlisberger and Josh Brown and Kareem Hunt is they all involved violence. Even if there wasn't a criminal complaint, they all alleged some kind of violence. Now, my argument here would be any kind of battery or assault would be considered violence, right? If it's sexual,
what Kareem Hunt get? I forget what he got on his.
He got 8 games.
8 games, okay.
Yeah,
and
so
he cut from the Chiefs.
Yeah, and he got cut for the Chiefs, and then he was on the Browns, and that's when he got the suspension for the 8 games. Yeah. So basically, if you kick somebody, it's 8 games, but if you use a different appendage, it could be less.
Well, and I think too,
I don't know if your appendage is that big that you do it like that.
So the thing with Ray Rice and Kareem Hunt, also they got they were smaller sections at first, and until a video released showing what happened versus what we're not seeing here with Deshaun. I mean, if a video releases showing stuff, then this could turn into a whole different thing, like it did for Ray Rice and Kareem Hunt. So, but I just think the whole reason we're seeing her, Robinson basically say, hey, 6 games sounds fair, because there is no really hard, definite, hard, definite proof. Like, we have all the stuff, but there's no video, there's no anything.
That part I disagree with. She's saying that there's enough proof to find this.
Okay.
I don't think it's the level of proof, because whether you have a video or not, she's saying beyond the preponderance of the evidence, he did this conduct. She's just saying the conduct was not of the same level of those other things.
Gotcha.
So and then she, again, so this is where the holding the owners to, she doesn't even say the owners are held to a higher standard. She cites to their brief and says equal standard, which technically you don't have access to their brief. So but she cites their brief saying that they should be held to an equal standard. Implying something about the Robert Kraft and Dan Snyder thing. Now, she doesn't say anything about those individual cases. And I think that there's a point there, because I think the NFL distinguishes those cases, at least one of them. I think Kraft, is distinguishable by the fact that nobody's alleging sexual assault by Kraft. As far as Dan Snyder, there is at least 2 allegations of sexual assault. One has already been dealt with in the prior proceeding regarding the other stuff that was going on with the Washington Commanders football team, other names that I will not say. And then there's one that's actually currently still pending before the NFL. So we will see how they handle that case. But again, there is a difference between one case and
32 or something, whatever it is.
Yeah, up to 30. But we know that there were 4 that they were reviewed by the NFL's investigators, because initially it was going to be 5 and then they cut it down to 4. But there's 20 other ones too. So again, there's kind of a little bit of a mix here of, there's the public element where we all know from the outside going, listen, there's 24 that filed civil lawsuits. There's an additional couple that filed criminal lawsuits. There's also several women who spoke to the New York Times, and there's clearly more that the Texans settled lawsuits with. So when you get to these numbers out there, it becomes there's a lot. And in fact, one of the women that was going to be included in the 5 or in the 12 was not represented by Tony Busby, and her case was the one that I think made the news a little bit, because they weren't using that case, but it was referenced. I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was Pro Football Talk that reported it, which was weird, because 1 minute Florio was on one side of the case, and then Florio went to the other side of the case. Then he's released the report, and then the report got released literally 30 seconds later, and he got he's like, oh, I can't be complaining about it anymore. But
Woj, what's your read on what Rodgers going to do? I mean, do you know or have anything that what feels that what Rodgers going to rule on here?
Oh, I have. This whole process was I was on 3 different shows when it came to the NFL's process. My thing was, we have no clue. because this is all a new process. We don't know how the NFL is thinking about it. Could the NFL turn around and say, you know what, a year, and then if he fights us on it, we'll put him on the commissioner exempts list while he's trying to sue us in federal court with an injunction for us to not suspend him. And I think that's their leverage to be able to say, listen, we'll just put him on the exempt list because, oh, you're going to fight us on the suspension. No, they might not. They might sit there and say, you know what? You want to fight us on the suspension? Fine, you could play this year. It actually might cost him more money down the line because he would only lose $1 million this year. But if he got suspended next year, he'd be losing way more money. So
I have
go ahead and fight the suspension, Deshaun.
I have a theory here, Woj, and you can tell me if I'm just out crazy. I'm retarded or whatever you want to say these days. But so my theory is that Deshaun was suspended last year. There was a back end deal last year between the Texans, the NFL, and Deshaun that said he couldn't play because we've seen players in every sport for the last decades asked to be traded and still play. So what made Deshaun not play? Why didn't the Texans throw him out there? Right? Because he was suspended, but they were just not going to play him. He was suspended. Then when the new that was for like the first 20 allegations. All right, you're going to be suspended a year, but you're not really going to be suspended type thing. Deshaun, okay, just don't screw up in this year. Then he screws up because they find out there's more women and after that. And that's where I think they're like, okay, now we're going to have to do the hardball and do the year plus or the 6 games. It looks like now maybe possible the 6 games. Who knows what Rodgers going to yell. Am I crazy? Or do you think that's, possible?
Okay. No, you're not crazy because I understand what you're saying. But I've been pushing against that one for the longest time because that one, he wasn't suspended. He got paid. He got paid by the Texans not to play for that year.
But why?
Because he told him he wasn't going to play.
That happens all the time. That happens all the time. That's
here's the difference. He is a star quarterback, and he was a trade chip. And if he goes out there and he goes on the field and spikes the ball every game, yeah, you could fine him, and you could sit there and do all that stuff. Or you could say, okay, Deshaun, we'll let you sit this year because we probably don't want you on the field anyway. And you probably don't want, and you definitely don't want to be on the field. But we can't trade you right now because you're an idiot who likes to get massages from randos on the internet. And people found out, and you didn't pay him off well enough. So Deshaun, you want to be traded? We're okay with trading you. We'll pay you the $10 million this year. And that was between the Texans and Deshaun. It had nothing to do with the NFL. The NFL was not, as far as any of us know, unless there's some kind of secret conspiracy backdoor deal. But we are not aware of that, and there's never been an allegation of that by his side.
I'm alluding to the conspiracy, and maybe that's just I think that's.
But he would have alleged that then. He would have come out saying, "Oh, I already served my time."
Nah, he can't say it now. He can't say it. That's what I'm saying.
He doesn't have to say it now. He could have said it in the hearing. He didn't say it in the hearing. He could say that. He could say it all he wants. We had an agreement back then. Because you would have had an argument for double jeopardy, and then they couldn't suspend him. That one was never going to fly. I get it. I hear that one all the time on Browns Twitter. I'm on all the Twitters, the Browns Twitter, the Giants Twitter.
Let me ask you this. So as a Browns fan, I mean, you started saying like this is not the happiest days to come on due to this, but is it not a happy day for the Browns and Deshaun Watson? I would say that he finally got his happy ending here going with
it's not over.
Games.
Yeah, might be still over.
Like that's the problem with the Browns. Like that's the problem with this whole situation. And I know a lot of people who are Browns fans who are conflicted, who even like going into this, they're conflicted. And going into when they traded for him, they're conflicted. I know people who've already left the fandom. I live in a lovely world of I get to talk about all football anyway. I have a very good, relatively good knowledge of every team. And I live close enough to Giants and I live close enough to MetLife that I could spit on it. Okay, maybe not spit on it, but like walk over and pee on it. I literally went to the Giants training camp last week. So, and I have tickets to go later on this week. So if I want to, I could just, I love talking about football because I love talking about football. I became a Browns fan because I was like, oh, they're the fun, plucky underdogs. And this kind of really takes them out of the plucky underdog situation. This is more, oh, you're the evil empire. You're closer to the Patriots now than you were to. Now, I don't want to make it evil, like, oh, this is all about morals, but it is more fun to think like that. That was the fun part about being a Browns fan. We might lose, but we don't have Ben Roethlisberger. That's the hard part. How are you a Browns fan? You've been bashing Roethlisberger for the last decade, and then all of a sudden you come around and be like, "Well, we got to root for Deshaun Watson." Like, at least the argument for a Steelers fan was like, we didn't pick him; he was here already. We couldn't even get rid of him. The team tried to trade him. Like, the Browns traded for the guy, gave the guy an extension, gave him 5 years fully guaranteed. Like, that's the money that people like when people complain about their contract situation. It's not the first year is very, very low, because it's very common in the NFL to do it like that. It's the fully guaranteed 5 years, $200 million, like stupid Boko money that he could just turn around. Like, this is why, again, like, dude, this never had to even hit the airwaves. The funny thing is, he benefited from how crazy all this was. He benefited from the buku crazy stuff that happened. He benefited from the crazy massages because he got $230 million from it.
And the Browns gave it to him. I mean, that's the thing is, in every GM, I mean, the Ravens GM has come out and said we can't do that for Lamar. And every GM and every, owners come out and said that was the worst deal for everybody due to, that situation because of that contract.
Well, especially because since it's fully guaranteed, you got to put all that money in escrow. Even if he's not paid it, you have to have $230 million laying around to be put in escrow. That's not easy to do, especially for like owners like Mark Davis. They make a lot of money per year, but you got to remember that money's going back out the door as well. So like when the NFL teams get their money, they're getting X amount, but remember, you're also paying players. You're trying to do your own thing. Also, like, people don't want to spend their money. Some people have a lot more money to throw around. Stan Kroenke, he's got no problem spending the money. Why? He's got billions anyway. It was more fun to him to win a Super Bowl than make any money off the NFL. He's got other investments. He's making plenty of money. The money he gets from his NFL team don't matter to him because he's just like, you know what? Screw it. I moved the team to LA. I got sued for it too.
So real quick here before I hop into the old Browns team overall conversation away from Deshaun, Randy here was just thinking what I was thinking. So let's just say the NFL 3 days, whatever, Mark goes away. Do you think Deshaun still appeals the 6th game in the end?
I think they have to appeal by the 3-day period.
Oh, they do. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
everybody's got 3 days.
Yeah, they said they won't.
They do.
Which I think the reason is they don't want to they're appealing to Roger Goodell. If Roger Goodell was already going to sit there and be like, well, screw you, I was going to give you a year anyway. You're appealing 6 games, 2 years. Like, he could just turn around and do that. It's really the stupid element of the appeals process there. It's really just, like I said, really what the job is for the arbiter to decide whether or not the thing happened. And then the punishment's really more of a suggested punishment because the NFL can override it.
One more question on Deshaun here. So why did they? Because Rodgers really we just said it earlier, like the judge and the executioner. Why did they have to go see this judge to see if it proven? I thought that's the whole point of the NFL investigating to see if it did happen, and then they give that information to Roger. Like, this is like kind of the first time. Maybe the Tom Brady thing went like to real judges, but why did they? What
was
to
the
go
CBA?
To this judge? Okay.
This is a new CBA, so it's a new process. That's it. There was nothing. That was a whole different situation. The idea of this one was to stop it from going to federal court. The idea was you're not going to do this anymore. We've come to an agreement on this, and now really the NFLPA is turning around and saying, but Roger, you guys can't do that. Like, the reality is, the whole idea was that. Fine, you don't want us to be judge, jury, and executioner. You guys can have it. We have a jury. We picked somebody to be the jury. If the jury finds not guilty, we can't do anything. That was always part of the process, and that's kind of the thing that everybody forgets with that is that the NFL couldn't appeal the other side of the other part of the coin. So we did this so that you guys felt like it was a better process. And now you're turning around and saying, but Roger, and now Roger's going to turn around and say, you know what? We won a year or 12. I think they really were going to agree on 12 games. If they had agreed before today, they would have agreed on 12 games for the NFL. I think the NFL now looking at it goes, you know what? You're annoying as hell. This should not have happened. And now we're getting. This is what they're going to pay attention to. They don't want him coming onto the field and on some primetime game. There's a reason why the Browns only got 2 primetime games this year, even though they traded for a quarterback who's like we gave the biggest contract to. They get 2 primetime games because they don't want them on primetime. So the fact that they got 2 was a magician's trick. I think I'm shocked that they gave them 2, but I feel like they would have hid them even more. But again, the whole point of this process was to take it out of Goodell's hands, at least partially, and they got that. And now but he was found that he was found by the process to have done something to have violated the policy. In fact, violated 3 parts of the policy, including sexual assault, which is what on the top of page 9 for people reading the opinion. She says, by a preponderance of the evidence, I find that Deshaun Watson committed sexual assault. Full stop. That is what she says. That is and she uses, the NFL gets to provide the definitions because they have the prerogative to go ahead and make the definitions there, which is kind of a little weirder portion of it. But listen, that's how they defined it. This is it. He can override it and decide the amount of games. There is a reason for him not to, but I think there's a better reason for him to do so. So like you were asking me before, where do I think Goodell goes? The only reason why I think they would maybe avoid that is if the ownership was like, listen, we don't want the PR campaign, but you're going to get the PR campaign anyway. People are going to sit there and say horrible stuff about it. And they're going to keep on saying horrible stuff about it while he's suspended, when he comes back, when the last case goes to trial. If that, whatever comes out of that last case, lucky he managed to settle most of them or the rest of them. But, when he comes back, it's going to be a fiesta, or they're going to, and now maybe they're like, you know what, we'll deal with the PR image that we get with the PR image. We'll see what ends up happening. I don't know. To be honest, I don't think there's any answers to what we have any idea what Goodell's going to do, because the only person who knows right now is Roger Goodell.
Yep. Only time will tell. Only time. So your Browns here, right? Let's talk Browns real quick, right? Deshaun or no Deshaun? How are we feeling about the season? What are we thinking? Do we think you think we'll have a repeat of 8-9 even with Deshaun if he does do the full 6 in the end? As long as it's not a year, or what are you thinking?
So I think they have different ideas in place, right? Right now, if it's 6 games, I think they lean Brissett and they stick with Brissett. Maybe they look into some other things. Maybe they look into some other possible backups. But I think for right now, it's Brissett. And maybe the idea of possibly trading for Garoppolo. I don't know if they've hit that point yet. They have the money to trade for Garoppolo if they wanted him. I know they want to make sure both quarterbacks are able to start. With 6 games, I think they might be okay with Brissett as far as feeling okay with Brissett.
Gotcha.
The defense is good. Like, I like a lot of this defense.
Brissett's serviceable, too. I mean, you look at their set. They could probably at least go, 3-3 with Brissett in 6 games. I mean, he's a serviceable quarterback. A couple years ago with the Colts, I mean, a similar team, a good defense. He probably got better better running game at this point in time in Cleveland than he had a couple years ago in Indy. But I mean, that was
a good offensive line in Indy, though.
Yeah, it was. No, it was incredible offensive line. But I just mean like a good defense. He's just not going to win you very many games, but he's probably not going to lose you very many games at the same time.
Yeah, and if you look at it too, the Browns are home 4 out of the first 6 games. That could be a big key.
Yeah, I think they have some benefits out of the fact that, like, Brissett's not horrible, right? Again, 6 games, I think you're right. They can maybe make it to 3-3. The defense, you look at Myles Garrett, Jadeveon. If they don't have any injuries on the defense, that defense could be crazy good.
Oh, yeah.
Ward's been good. Newsome played really well last year. I think Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah played really well. The second-round pick, who people were talking about like as a top 10 linebacker when he was in the draft. I think him and Newsome year 1 were good. Year 2 they could be really good. You still have the depth in the defensive back room with Greedy Williams still there, former LSU guy who was a second-round pick. Delpit, I think, might take a step forward. He might be the best safety on that defense. Johnson, who they signed last year, is now 2 years into the defense. They've got a lot more chemistry going on that back end. That defense can be very scary. I think they even brought back Ronnie Harrison.
Yep,
so you got another guy who's familiar with the defense. They brought back Anthony Walker, who played really well for them last year. Their real weakness is the interior of the defensive line. A lot of young dudes, nobody proven. They didn't bring in a D tackle to help build it up. So I think that's one of their issues is the interior of the defensive line, not the deepest thing in the world. And then when you look at the wide receiving core, they brought in Amari Cooper, which is an upgrade from what they had last year as far as their top end wide receivers went, because Odell's never been healthy while he's been there. For like, even when he was starting last year, I don't think he really got to full health until he was with the Rams, and then he re-tears the ACL, which, like, I think he was healthy for 6 games of 2020, and that was the extent of his best health for the Browns. With Jarvis, love Jarvis. I think Jarvis is an amazing player, really good dude. He's not Amari Cooper. I think Amari Cooper's a different kind of cat. Now he's also an injury prone guy too. He's been, that was kind of the issue of why the Dallas Cowboys got rid of him. So, and in fact, I think he had an ankle injury today. So we don't know how much he lasts throughout everything. Anthony Schwartz, young dude, a lot of speed to him. But again, if you're trying to, like, it was one thing to expect Deshaun Watson to make a lot with these players, with Donovan Peoples-Jones, 6th round pick dude who had some good moments in the last couple of years. If he takes a step forward, I think he'll be heavily involved. They got a lot of cool pieces there. Like you said, the running game could be really great. You have Kareem Hunt back. You have Nick Chubb, who I think is one of the best running backs between the tackles or outside the tackles. One of just the best pure runners in the NFL. So you have 2 really good running backs there. I think Kareem Hunt's ability to be a matchup weapon as kind of a pass catcher. They've been running in camp doing a lot more 2 running back sets, which was something that they were initially like a little against initially. I don't understand why they kept on like, we want to preserve them. Like, dude, like, utilize them to win games. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Kareem Hunt is a matchup nightmare for linebackers. Really good route runner, great pass catcher. And getting the 2 of those guys in the field. We saw that in 2019 with Freddie Kitchen. Not 2019, 2018. Was it 2018, 2019? One of those years they had both of them. It was one of those years they had both of them on the field. I'm like, why don't they do this all the time? I think it was 2019 because that was the suspension year, and he came back and they ran a little bit of that. And I just kept on begging for people to do that more. Was they had Kareem Hunt and they had Nick Chubb on the field at the same time, and Kareem Hunt would block for Nick Chubb, and it creates such a matchup nightmare for people because he was blocking like he's a fullback. He's got bowling ball thighs. He's a good pass catcher.
That's right.
So that running back duo right there is great. They also have the dude who they drafted in, like, I think the back end.
So they got Dearness Johnson.
Oh, I was going to talk about Dimitri Felton. I don't know if they're going to be on the 53, the final 53, because I think try to trade him.
Okay.
I think they're going to try and find a way to trade him, get some value for him. I like the player. I think he's great. But if you can get an extra like 6th, 7th round, like, you can get something for him as opposed to nothing. Like, it costs them nothing to give him the tender. It's the same thing with the guy who they had last year, Kadar Hodge, who they gave him an original round tender, kept him around. And then, he ended up sticking around for a little bit. Now, again, I think they might be more intrigued on keeping Dearness around because he was a really good runner last year. I don't know if that's really their plan. I think the plan is really more to keep him around so they could trade him to somebody else and see what they can get for him as a trade chip, especially if they're looking for another D tackle. If somebody goes down with an injury, another wide receiver. So we'll see what ends up happening with that. That'll
be interesting too, because if Dearness Johnson's gone, I don't know. We'll talk to Ryan around the corner here, see if that would change his rankings at all with Chubb and Hunt. But we'll see.
What place do you got the Browns in? Because, I mean, that division is, I mean, really, everybody's got questionable marks to me in that division. You look at the Bengals. Can they make a run like they did last year? I mean, with Joe Burrow and Chase and everybody, they look like maybe the least questionable team, but they're still the Bengals, so you always have to throw up a question mark there. You have Pittsburgh with a great defense, but their new quarterback, Big Ben's gone. But I think Kenny Pickett and Mitch Trubisky are better right now than what Ben Roethlisberger was last year at this time. I'll take just where they were, but still questionable marks at quarterback. Then you have the Ravens. I mean, I had Cordell Woodward on my show yesterday, and he's a Ravens insider, and he was, we talked about all the injuries that they had last year, and everybody coming back and how good they could be this year. So, I mean, are the Browns, let's just say Watson's, we're hypothetically the 6 games, where are they sitting at here? Where would you pick them at? What's their ceiling, and then what's the floor here before we get you out of here, Woj, on the Browns?
Oh, the ceiling is they can win the division, but I don't think the ceiling is really possible. I think the ceiling is possible. I don't know if that's the likely outcome, given that, like you said before, the Ravens have a lot of guys last year who were injured. So you have Peters coming back from injury. Humphrey was injured last year. You had Lamar Jackson, who dealt with injuries last year. The offensive line looks like it might be a little bit better with Morgan Moses and Zeitler on the right side. We'll see where Stanley comes in as far as health goes. They drafted the center
Tyler Linderbaum.
Tyler Linderbaum. Yeah. Damn it, you're better than me at this point. God, I got out more often. My brain going.
Tyler Linderbaum, yeah, best center
Linderbaum. Yeah. So and even they drafted Falele too. Is that mountain of a dude? So again, they got a lot of good pieces on the offensive line back. Some guys healthier. Some guys who are now in the next year. Ben Cleveland there, and Powers, and they just have a lot of good guys on the offensive line. I know they traded Bredesen to the Giants, but again, the defense, you got, oh my God. I mean, I know they won't have the dude that they drafted this year in the second round.
Jabo.
Yeah, Jabo, but Owe was amazing. And I was a big Owe fan coming out, and I was like, all right, I was right on Owe. So you get like that, and they got Zadarius Smith in that room again.
No, Zadarius he did not go back. He's in
Minnesota.
That's
right.
Yeah, he went back.
Yeah. He went to the Vikings.
Yeah,
man.
That looked like he switched back. That deal was about to be done with the Ravens. Looked like he was going to go, and then switched to took the deal to Minnesota.
Yeah, that's right. Dang it. But they still have Owe. They still have a lot of good pieces on the defense. Oh, they brought back was it Brandon Williams they brought back?
Brandon Williams,
Calais Campbell.
Yes, Marcus. No, that's Marcus Williams. I'm thinking of
Marcus Peters will be back this year, hopefully for them who got hurt last year. I mean, they just had
Calais Campbell, Michael Pierce, and Justin Matabuke.
Dobbins will be back.
Dobbins. I liked Dobbins a lot coming out. I don't know how quickly he comes back from the ACL. Heard it was more complicated now, but he's going on Twitter being like, "Yo,
he's saying I'm fine.
I'm ready to go. I shouldn't even be on the pup. You should let me go. Let me go." He's like Timon from like the Lion King, like, "Let me at him. Let me at him." Like, all right, I got this stuff. So like with Dobbins, I think Dobbins maybe doesn't get full health by the end of September, early October. He's back to full speed, especially because they haven't let him off the pup yet. But all the other pieces, at least on the defense, that defense is so good. They really built back up around the run game element of their team. They got rid of Hollywood Brown, which was kind of a little sad because I think he actually did eventually start meshing with Lamar Jackson by the end of last year. They still have Andrews though as the tight end. So again, that team is going to be very tough.
That's probably the favorite, I think.
Yeah, that's the favorite in my head. And like you said, the Bengals have that legit receiving core. They brought in La'el Collins. They brought in Alex Kappa.
I like the Bengals more than I like any team in that division. I'm gonna have a huge crush on Joe Burrow and what he is, just a dog out there. And that they have the offensive weapons. And then they woke up. The Bengals realized we got to not Bengals so much anymore. We got to protect this guy, and they went out and, drafted offensive linemen, went and got, like you said, Collins. I like the Bengals as the team in the North here. So what's the worst case scenario, Woj, for the Browns? I mean, you said, you don't think the winning the division, but I mean, it's possible. Anything's, but
that can't be the worst case scenario.
No, I'm saying, what is the worst case scenario for the Browns here before we get you out of here?
Worst case scenario is, first off, worst case scenario is Deshaun suspended indefinitely. That's the worst case scenario for them. Doesn't matter what happens with Brissett at that point because they're not winning the division with Brissett. And they're probably not making a wild card with Brissett. So worst case scenario is they're third or fourth in the division. They didn't make it anywhere and they're still stuck with a suspended quarterback going into next year. That's the real worst case scenario. We're going to pretend like that didn't happen. And it's just the 6 games. I think they could still end up being the third best team in the division. But you got to remember also the Steelers find ways. They just find ways of winning at points. And because Tomlin's a good coach, because Harbaugh's a good coach, because the Bengals have Joe Burrow and a magic receiving core who are run by genies. Like they're just like all those 3 teams have things that are going really well for them. And like also the Browns offensive line is not as good as it used to be. They got rid of J.C. Treader. He was too expensive and a little old. And he had knee problems. Conklin's coming off a patella tendon tear. So now they got a new dude. They have Nick Harris, 3rd year. I think he'll be very good, especially at least on the outside zone runs. But Conklin coming back might be some questions. Hudson was okay, started getting better towards the end of last year. If Wills doesn't get injured again, I think he'll develop. The two guards, Batonio and Teller, are good. But again, I don't think you can rely on Brissett trying to lead that run game altogether. I think it's third in the division. They don't make the playoffs. That's the worst case scenario because you don't get anything out of that. Third and not in the playoffs gets you nothing.
Yep, agreed.
Well, Woj, we'll get you out of here, man. We appreciate you coming on.
Definitely
for having me.
Impactful stuff here on this.
That was huge. That was a lot of info. I loved it all too, guys. Make sure
you guys don't shut up either. Like I'll just if you know the first part of this episode, it was like I don't think you guys spoke for the first half hour. And it was like, oh wow, but that happens. I go on a people's show, and it's like, oh well, do you guys want to talk? I apologize. I feel like I hijacked everything.
Yeah, no problems at all, guys. Make sure you guys check them out. Punk Law 101, Legal News and Comedy Podcast, and also Draft Advice Football Podcast, also on TikTok on Draft Advice. That's where I've caught him before as well. So, and always Let's Talk Sports every Friday afternoon.
Yep. And if you want, you can follow me at BROJO. Death is in the end of life. Punch, like a delicious drink you drink in the summer. That's on every platform, whether you want to play Xbox Live with me or you want to go ahead and just talk to me on Twitter, Instagram, all that kind of stuff.
Good stuff. Well, we appreciate you coming on again, and we hope to have you on later on in the season.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
Have a good day.
Thanks, Wojo. You too. Guys, that was Wojo. Fabulous guy, wonderful guy. He has great shows on Friday afternoons, by the way.
You got to start extending these. You got to extend these time zones here because you do like 15-minute interlopes, and I know there's never been one time where we've had a guest where we just talked for 15 minutes.
I know. Well, this one we went way over that one. I apologize here. That's been rioting, guys. We'll talk some fancy football here.
Ryan's been in our waiting room for the last hour.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Ryan.
It's all right, guys. I love listening to Wojo. I always watch the Friday shows with Dan because he's so unique to what we all want to talk about. There's just
so much going on, and I'm just listening. I'm looking up. I'm like, oh crap! But yeah, it's just great thoughts and great mind, and he has so much good stuff. But anyways, Ryan Larrison, everybody, fantasy football for the people, Roto Baller Rider, and Wag Me Fantasy Football, and of course, a Let's Talk Sports contributor. On top of his 992 leagues of fantasy football.
Haven't gotten there yet.
I'm just rounding up.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks for hanging around and hopping on air. So much appreciated. So we just completed our first draft together, all three of us. So in the Let's Talk Sports League. How you feeling?
I think you guys did pretty well. Myself, I hated the spot I was in. I
hated the spot you were in too, by the way.
Yeah, I was sniping Bodkins the whole time, which was the highlight of my draft. But it made me draft in a different way that I normally don't. I like to usually go pretty RB heavy at the beginning because I just don't trust some of the guys at the end. But that did not happen. So my wide receiver core is fairly stacked. I think I took 4 within the first 6 rounds, and I didn't take another one until like the 12th round. So. I think I did okay. I think I'm going to fare well. You guys did fantastic. I like both your guys' rosters. This whole league, I mean, for some first timers that I know are in it, and some guys that haven't played for very long, it was very competitive. It wasn't as homer picky as I thought it was going to be until we got towards the end, and then you got like Yankee Finn taking 2 Dolphins back to back, and you got some Jets starting to roll out there.
I got my Harrison Butker in. I was like, the last 2 rounds, whatever.
May as well take the kicker, right? You're scoring points. He's going to lead the team in scoring.
That's right. He did last year, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Pat Mahomes, who?
I tell people all the time, when it comes to fantasy, fanhood goes out the window. I mean, you just have to throw everything out.
Gone. That totally abstaining my Jalen Hurts quarterback pick, which is actually probably only like the 2nd or 3rd share I've ever gotten of him in any of my leagues. And Tanner knows how many I'm in at this point. So that should help it, instill that fact that you got to just let that stuff kind of go when you're drafting your teams. There's not players that I won't take, even if they're on the Cowboys, which I hate the Cowboys. So you got to let it go.
That's fair. Yeah. It was just, I just thought I was 3rd, And usually I'm not every 3. And it was a really hard one for me to go because I was trying to go your route, essentially drafting on, at least 4 receivers beforehand. That's what I did on the other one. But by the time it came back around to me, everybody else going to take in the second round was gone. So I went Patrick Mahomes. I'm like, hey, I've never had Patrick Mahomes on my team, so let's try it out on this one. So I felt like I was very balanced. I had Kyle Pitts early, Patrick Mahomes, with a few starting. I felt like I was overall balanced, which is kind of weird for my team, but I'm okay with that, I think.
Yeah, you took MVS. I wanted MVS on that swing back, and then I saw you nabbed him. I was like, damn.
I wanted the partnership. I wanted the partnership. With Hopkins being out, I needed a partnership there.
Got to have the stack.
You can have Stone Hands. He'll average about 2 points a game for you. That's it.
Except he scores. Then it'll be 15.
Stone Hands MPS.
Well, cool.
About 3 touchdowns. And they'll be in one game, believe me.
He says this with Dak Prescott as a starting quarterback.
The reason I took Dak Prescott is because he just kept falling and falling. It's different. I took him in the 10th round. Like Dak Prescott in the 10th round, that's a steal if I ever call one, because he had an eighth round projection. So okay, I didn't take him in the 8th. Okay, in the 9th. Well, now we're hitting in the 10th. Shoot, he's still there. He's the best quarterback in the 10th.
You might as well.
Time, yeah.
You want a hot take? So Gary, I'll let you guys in on this. Gary asked me to review one of his first dynasty league that he had with his league mates, and I gave grades to all of them, which he thought was fantastic. And they had a good hour-long conversation in the chat. And I'm looking through all the teams, and he wants me to do it for this league as well. I was like, we'll see. I don't know if anybody's going to get butthurt if I, give him a bad rating or whatever.
Nick's going to get butthurt.
I'm just mad because you took all the
I might hurt his feelings because I think Tanner's got his second quarterback is better than Bodkins' first quarterback. He's got Kirk Cousins sitting behind Pat Mahomes, and I think that he's going to outproduce Dak for fantasy this year.
I'll never have 2 quarterbacks. I'll never in a day have 2 quarterbacks.
That's fine. You don't have to. And honestly, Tanner probably does it with Pat Mahomes, but his bench quarterback is going to outscore your starting quarterback all season, I think.
Hey, then that's fine. And guess what? His backup quarterback is sitting on his bench, so you can't run 2 quarterbacks. So
give me your first round pick. I'll give it to you.
and Dak will. I mean, Dak's just a starter for now. I'm a very much like, hey, let me get rid of you. I'm a quick hook on the quarterbacks and kickers, defense. I'll stream one if I have to every week. I mean, that's just how I play. But Dak in the 10th round was just too good to pass up.
I had to bust you on it, but it's a great value for him. He usually goes 7th, 8th round, and he was just one of the guys that fell weirdly. There were some guys in that draft that fell that I didn't think were going to fall as far as they did, and I've seen him getting picked in like the 11th, 12th round. I'm like, I didn't even realize he was still there, but they weren't options for me at the time because I had to fill out my RB depth, so I kind of had to zero in on some guys and let the rest of them go.
Yeah, I had a couple guys. I think because we had similar strategy. I had a lot of receivers early.
Yep.
That's just because, again, that's just where it was at. What how the draft was dictating to me. So I was trying to get some backs in the back end, and you were sniping them right and left right before. There was a time where I was like, when it comes to my draft, I have like 3 guys I circle. Like, hey, this is guy number 1 I want, guy number 2 I want, number 3 when it comes back to me. These 3 guys, I'm okay at this. And literally it was like, oh, there went number 1, there went number 2, now number 3. Now, who the hell do I take at this point in time? Because I have no idea, because I did not think this is how it was going to happen. But that's just what happened. I can't remember what it was. Early round, like round 2 or 3. And I was
that's what happened to me. But, we figure it out. You just got to take your time and give it a minute, and, we'll figure it out. So.
Was in our draft? Was there a guy that fell that was too? Well, you're like, wow, I didn't think he'd fall. And then what was a guy that we're like, wow, I definitely wouldn't have took him so early. And you can bust anybody's chops in our league because who cares.
Prescott was the one that fell where I was surprised. I didn't think that when I saw that you still needed a quarterback, because I think I took one a couple rounds ahead of that. Because I wanted Russell Wilson, but then Yankee Finn got him, and then I was like, well, I got Hurts as a top 5 quarterback ranked this year. I'll take the shot just so I don't got to worry about it, because I figured in a league like this with some newer people, quarterbacks would start flying off the board. Mm-hmm. So Prescott was the one that fell where I was like, well, that's interesting. I'm surprised that he went as far as he did. The one that got picked really early, I think it was like around 4 or 5, was Aaron Rodgers, which I get.
Yeah.
I understand just the name behind Aaron Rodgers is like, you want to draft him because he's been a 2-time MVP, but for fantasy, especially with losing Adams, I mean, I got him ranked outside my top 12 right now, and I've tried to bump him up by doing my projections and stuff like that, giving him little ticks up here and there, but I just can't get him inside that top 12 right now. It was that one. I was like, and I know he set his cue and had it to where like this is the guy I want first, and because he put himself on auto so he wouldn't hold up the draft. But yeah, that one I was like, that's way too early. That's a free extra player that might fall to me when that pick happened.
All right, hey, this is our Let's Talk Sports co-host league that we got going on. That's what we're talking about.
Yep. And I think we need to. Got Trevor Lawrence because he fell. Who took Lawrence? Oh, it's Rob Logan. Yeah, no.
Oh.
Yeah, because he took Herbert, I think, in like the 3rd or 4th round, and then with the last pick, he took Lawrence, which is perfectly fine. Lawrence is the guy I will leave drafts with absolutely dead last and still feel comfortable with starting the season. So he's one of those super extreme late round shots where if I just punt the quarterback position entirely, I'll take him with like the 14th, 15th pick and be fine.
So those comments are Carlos there commenting right now.
Okay.
So appreciate it, Carlos. So let's talk some fantasy guys here real quick here. And, you just kind of mentioned the guy I want to talk about first, Aaron Rodgers, right? So a lot's going on with him right now. ADP currently is 94. I think Sleeper has him at 97 currently. But his best is, like you said, right up there, the 3rd, 4th round. Some people are taking him. I'm sure my league, again, is going to see him in the first 2 rounds because with Mike and them, the Sports of Food stuff, and because he's always early. But there's just not the same weapons. And, as Nick can attest, they're all hurt right now. Or at least they're all dealing with some kind of injuries. Your rookie Christian Watson's on the pup. Sammy Watkins is limping. Cobb, I'm sure, is not feeling that great either. So, like, what are we thinking here for Rodgers? I mean, is it worth the risk in the end?
I wasn't paying attention to what you were saying. I was just reminiscing all these throws that you're up here to Rodgers to Adams.
Well,
I was going down memory lane. I'm about to tear up. Can you take that off the screen, Jesus?
If you look at it, Nick, this is a guy that's threw 2 picks or 3 picks or whatever it was week 1 and didn't throw another one to like week 6 or 7 or whatever. And like, can he be this accurate again this year and still be a fantasy dominant?
I'll let the guru guy talk before I do. Go ahead, you on that, Ryan, and then I'll chip in here.
He can absolutely be as accurate because Rodgers isn't the type of guy to make a mistake by throwing to the wrong person. The problem is he's going to hyper target somebody, and it's not going to work as well as it did with Adams because nobody's Devontae Adams. Like, I could literally see, especially with all the injuries that they have going on right now in the receiver room, Lazard could end up with like 160 targets. The problem is he's not going to be Adams and haul in 65 to 70% of those and take them for 15 touchdowns. So the numbers aren't going to look as good stacked up to that nice 66, 67% completion percentage by the end of the season. But that's what Rodgers does, is once he finds something he's comfortable with, he's going to hyper target, and then he's going to let the other guys just rot for fantasy purposes. So to me, it's, in terms of trying to evaluate Rodgers, he's been one of my most difficult players to try and bring up in ADP or in my rankings, because it just doesn't feel right to have him ranked as low as I have him. But at the end of the day, I have to realize that this is not the same potent passing offense. This is a team that I think is going to try and control clock more. Rodgers knows that. They've got A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones, one of the best RB tandems in the NFL. They could literally have them both on the field at the same time. And I think that's going to happen a lot this season because Jones is such a fluent pass catcher, and Dillon has proven that he is a better runner than Aaron Jones is at this point. So I think you could see them run the ball 30, 40 times a game. Rodgers may throw 25 to 30 in certain games if they can control it well enough, and their defense is good enough to keep him in that type of space. So it really limits his ceiling. He'll finish inside the top 12 more than a few times. It's Aaron freaking Rodgers, man. Like, I know he's going to, but it's not the same as I'm drafting this guy and he's going to finish inside the top 5 at this point, he might not finish inside the top 10, and it doesn't have to be because he's bad at football in the NFL. It's because he's just not throwing at the same rate into the same caliber of targets that he's had his entire career.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback just off a couple things you said. So he is going to be as accurate, Tanner, like he's always been that accurate.
Mhm.
Like that's a state of his whole career. Now, I'll say that while he keyed on Devontae Adams, I will say this, like there was a time where he didn't. There was a time where he had multiple weapons that were fantasy relevant. I mean, back when Greg Jennings, Jordy Nelson, and even Randall Cobb, like all three of those guys at one time were fantasy relevant at the same time. I think the last few years, obviously, it's been Devontae or nothing. And then you just hope maybe you can get a game out of Stonehands MVS or Lazard when he's healthy or somebody like that. But part of that is injuries. Part of that is maybe Aaron didn't trust those guys. And part of that is Devontae was always open, and he could get it because Devontae is, arguably the top 2 or 3 receiver in the league. So I think this year it'll be a little different. I think he'll spread the ball a little bit more around because he's going to have to, because there isn't a Devontae Adams that's open 80% of the time, or at least to where he felt comfortable. I can get to a spot to where I know he's going to be the only one that can come down with it. And I'll that's my only counter argument as far as those, is that I think Devontae had a play in that, not so much just Aaron was just locks in on one guy. I think he's going to spread it around, but you're absolutely right. They're going to run the ball a lot. I wouldn't, maybe they seem to be high on this 7th round wide receiver that they drafted, that they've been talking about, that we talked about on Saturday.
Romeo
Yes. No, Samori Torre.
Oh, okay.
So they seem to be high on him. I've heard a lot of good things out of camp, more out of him than Christian Watson, because Watson hasn't hit on the field. But I mean, we'll see, man. I mean, I just think he's never been. That's the thing. That's what separates real life football and fantasy football. Aaron Rodgers has been MVP the last 2 years. He's never been a top 2 quarterback, 3 quarterback in fantasy. That's just difference in fantasy football and real life football. Give me Aaron Rodgers in real life, I'll pass on him on fantasy like I have every year.
I like it. I'm with you there. Like, I just don't feel like it's a bad pick overall. Like you just can't go wrong until it goes wrong. That's what I think. So, Nick, you got anything here for Ryan?
Nah, man, Ryan, we appreciate you, man.
Well, hold on. I got one more. I was like, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Why do you hate me so much? And why were you taking my players? And why is N'Keal Harry going to win me this fantasy league?
I was so appreciative that you took him, because I was thinking about it with my last pick, because I could just drop him if I wanted to. But now he has to stay on your roster. He has to occupy your bench.
He's going to be the first person I drop. I have no kicker. I picked him up just I've been pounding that pick for the whole time.
You got to play him against me week 1, right? Stick him in the flex. And if he wins, I mean, it's ultimate bragging rights at that point.
All right. So, oh, man, that'd be great. So, my next guy, I did have one more for you. We talk about his weapons all the time, but now he has so many weapons on this team. Tom Brady, right? This is a guy, 44-year-old, 45. I don't know where we're at yet with him anymore.
700.
At this point, right? This guy is at ADP 89, probably about 44, 84 in sleeper for PPR. I mean, just so many. Gage, Julio, Evans, no Gronk, but now you got Bray and the rookie as well that came into play for tight end. Yeah, Fournette. I know Chris Godwin will be back probably by week 4, week 5. I've heard.
White out of the backfield, he can catch a pass or two.
Like, how do you balance this? How do you go about this, trying to draft and justify? Like, you can probably justify Tom Brady, but do you try to go get him earlier than, maybe the 3rd or 4th round, or do you try to sit there and wait?
For Brady, his draft price makes him like one of those elite values. Like I just released an article, not to just plug my stuff, but it's
go for it.
Rush. I just released an article on WagMe about value quarterbacks, and it doesn't have to be guys that are super late, right? Not those guys that are all going 10th round or later. It's guys that are going late enough to where they have the upside to absolutely demolish their ADP and finish as one of those guys that maybe you should have taken in the 3rd or 4th round. And I think Brady sits as one of those values where he's at right now, especially when once you see all the pieces that are being added, like Julio for fantasy. I don't know what the hell to do with that wide receiver room now. I hate that move because now I got to spend an hour and a half going back and redoing my projections. I was all in on Russell Gage. I don't know what to do with him anymore because I don't know if they're going to rotate Julio into a spot. Julio has been rumored to be playing tight end for Tampa Bay in practice right now.
Oh my Lord.
What are we doing? Like
what?
There's nothing we can do. We don't know. It's a complete crapshoot. It's New England all over again because we don't know what to do with the running back and wide receiver room. But when it comes to Brady himself, you know for a fact that he is going to be fantasy relevant. He was, I think, the quarterback 3 last year, quarterback 4, something like that overall.
Yeah.
And
He's top 5.
He always gets left at the end of, the 8th, 9th round because nobody wants to draft old man Brady. They want to be the one that said, I called it. This was the year he was going to fall off the cliff. I said this was going to happen. So, his value is perfect. You can go and take the shot on him in the 7th, 8th, 9th round, and he's going to return value and then some. Running back room, Fournette, I think he's an easy lock for that 2nd, 3rd round pick. He's going to be inside that top 15 as long as he's healthy. Yeah, I don't care about the 260-pound weight issues. I think he's already down to 245 now. The last time that they checked in, that was just a puff piece that they wanted to call him fat, whatever. He's Eddie Lacy 2.0 for everybody in fantasy now. He'll be fine. It'll probably drive his value down for people that are, not thinking about it, and then he's going to be even more of a value. But when it comes to the wide receivers, I guess I'll touch on tight end. Tight end I want nothing to do with. Kyle Rudolph, it's already been said that he's going to take over the Gronk role. So I know the Cameron Brate experience didn't work last year. We saw it in more than enough games to know that Brady and Brate just don't have that connection. I don't know why Brate wasn't traded this year and they didn't bring back O.J. Howard because I think Howard's a better player than Brate is at this point.
I agree.
It makes no sense to me, but that was the move that they made, so they stuck with it. So they bring in Rudolph because obviously Brate's not working out. That was probably a Brady decision in the first place. I don't know which one you would take. Brate's going to get snaps. Rudolph's going to get snaps. It's probably not going to be enough for either of them to be fantasy relevant, even at a crappy position where you can never tell who's the best one to take outside the top 5. So I'm going to leave that one alone. The wide receiver room is what we got to figure out because the fantasy points are going to be in that wide receiver room. I think you can lock up Mike Evans to be, a solid producer. He's going to be healthy week 1, top red zone target, always finishes with over 1,000 yards for fantasy. He's done it, I think, 8 straight seasons this year.
Yep.
So nothing you can do there. He's a easy 2nd, 3rd round pick. You smash that, you take it home. Godwin, Julio, and Gage are the 3 that I don't know what to do with. Godwin, most likely, is going to miss at least the first couple of weeks of the season. I've seen reports that he's going to miss all the way into mid-November and everything in between. So it's hard to figure out which one you want out of that. And Godwin, I think he's got like a 6th or 7th round ADP. I can't take that risk when you've got guys in those rounds like Darnell Mooney, some other names. Christian Kirk's going way behind him, and I think Kirk is going at a value. Like there's just guys that you can take that are going to give you instant production rather than you sit and play the waiting game for a hobbled Chris Godwin. And they're not going to let him out there until he's 100%. We already know that. They don't want to get him hurt anymore. They want to win a Super Bowl. That's why Julio's in. Then it comes to Julio and Gage, and now I'm at the point where I don't know if I should take one of them in the 9th or if I should just leave them for dead and see if hopefully one of them winds up to me in the 14th or 15th round because I think they're going to split what Antonio Brown got last year. And I don't know if that's going to equate to enough fantasy points on a consistent basis to draft them anywhere above like that 10th, 11th round.
No, sounds right to me. I just feel like if you're going to go safe bet on it, it's going to be Mike Evans for sure. So
yeah, you're gonna have to pay a good premium if you want to have a consistent contributor from the Buccaneers offense, which stinks because we know it's going to be one of the best in the NFC, led by Brady. So it's hard to decipher. It's like Deshaun Watson. Like I'm getting Deshaun Watson questions all day today. People want to know what to do with him, and I don't know what to tell him. He's going to miss 6 for sure. Now after listening to Wojo, I know it's going to be only 6 most likely. And the only guy to finish inside the top 15 last year who missed 5 games, not even 6. Everyone else played at least 13 or more was Lamar Jackson, and he finished 15th. So can we really trust Deshaun Watson to be, finishing inside the top 15 if he's going to miss 6 games tops after not playing for 2 seasons?
I just don't think it's going to happen.
You could take Watson as your last pick or two. He'll probably be there, and then just hope for the best here.
Yeah, that's what you have to do. And do you have the grapefruits to start him the week that he comes back?
No, I'll probably sit and wait. Because
I don't. I know I don't.
That's what I do with everybody. I hope Russell Gage goes off because I bought some shares in him. So I just hope that's, the Julio. It'll be interesting, like you said, with the Julio situation, because who's taking that Antonio Brown role, which was so crucial, but that's the biggest question. I mean, Gage is younger and they paid more money to bring Gage in. So I don't know why.
And Brady brought him in too, because Brady was the one that called him up and said, hey, let's go.
See, he's got everything working for him. And I think, because I usually like to follow the money, they paid Julio pennies from what I saw the contract. It's veteran minimum, and for good reason. Julio can't stay healthy the past couple seasons. So it's just Brady wanting to bring in more depth so that way he knows he can try and make a championship run. But at the end of the day, it's going to eat into what Gage does, and that's what stinks the most, because I think that he was in for...
It will be for about 5 games, and then Julio will be hurt the rest. So you'll be okay. Just keep Russell Gage on your bench. Wait till Julio gets hurt, and then it'll be go time. I mean, and Gage might be out there playing wide receiver too instead of the Antonio Brown role if, until Chris Godwin comes hurt. So then he's going to be out on the field, and then when Godwin comes back, then by that time Julio will get hurt, and then they'll sign Gage right over, and you're going to be all right. So at least that's what I tell myself when I draft Russell Gage.
Predictive wishful thinking of a grown man's injury, but it's very possible.
It's not wishful thinking. It's the proof is in the pudding here the last few years.
If you got shares, it's slightly wishful thinking. If you got shares, it's slightly wishful thinking.
Wishful thinking is saying N'Keal Harry's going to win me the league, brother.
No, that's shooting for the stars right there. But if he does, like I said, bet's still on. I will try to give you my shot at Rotoballer if that happens. I will definitely try.
Oh, man, that's great. Well, all right, we appreciate you joining us again. Sorry for the wait here as you waited on, but, Wojo had a lot to say, and it was a lot of useful info, and I'm glad we were able to have him on. So,
yeah, absolutely, man. Way more impactful than what we talk about. I'm just here professionally talking about a fake game we play.
Right, the kids game, as some people call it.
Right.
Guys, we also got for Let's Talk Sports coming up here at the Fantasy University, right? Coming into play. We'll have spread out shows there. Dan's working on all that. I think he's going to announce that here soon with all that play. Ryan will be a big player in that. Mike from the Sports Buffoons will also be involved in that as well. So that's going to be really cool. And then we also got Thursdays?
Yep, Thursdays at 5 and Sundays at 5. I do the NFL shows on Sundays with Dan, but for all the month of August, every show that I'm on is going to be Fantasy University centric.
Perfect. So that's some exciting stuff. And then go catch Ryan's stuff on Fantasy Football for the People. Wag Me Fantasy Football, Wag Me Fantasy, and then Rotoballer as well.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, guys, newsletter drops now on Tuesday, so tomorrow morning over at Wag Me Fantasy. So sign up for that. Just use your email. It's completely free. Click the confirmation email once it hits your inbox, and then you'll get all those exclusive articles a lot earlier than everybody else is going to have access to them, completely free. And we're going to have a ton of good stuff coming out in the month of August, so you're not going to want to miss that.
And that's the key, guys. The confirmation email that pops in, make sure you click it. Because I was trying to figure out why I haven't got mine yet, and that's what I figured out yesterday.
It's the curse of starting something brand new. It's every email catches it as potential spam, and they'll just throw it right in that inbox. And that's what we had problems with, because we saw as soon as we said that, we went up by like 20, 30 subscribers because everybody went to their spam box and checked it. So, yeah, definitely check for that all over the place in your spam and your regular inbox. Hopefully it hits your regular inbox now, but hit that confirmation email. You'll get access to all that stuff every Tuesday morning. I think it's 10 o'clock is the release.
Yeah, sounds right. Now that I'm on it. So cool. Awesome, guys. Well, Ryan, I appreciate you again, and we'll get you on again soon.
Absolutely, guys. Take it easy.
We'll bring him back on.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah, take it easy, guys.
All right, guys. So let's hit this real quick here. Then we'll do the Bodkins Minute here. See, I got it this time.
Wow.
I slacked the last couple of weeks. I got this new computer and I can do stuff now. So, yeah, you know, Nick, a lot of recent moves. Even today has been going on. Astros requiring a couple people. Trey Mancini being one. It seems like a lot of the players are serious threats. Serious players are really making some moves here, going into play.
The rich got richer, right? I mean, the Yankees got Andrew Benintendi. They just got the pitcher from the A's.
Frankie Montas and Lou Trevino.
Yeah. So I mean, the rich got richer. The you alluded to the Astros got Trey Mancini in a three-team trade. There's got the Red Sox catcher as well. How about that? The Astros are playing the Red Sox. He's doing BP as a Red Sox. They go over there and say, "Hey, go get dressed in the next across the dugout because you just got traded across the way."
Yeah. So Reese McGuire leaving the White Sox for Jake Dykman. But yeah, that's a huge deal there. Tommy Pham from the Reds also going to the Red Sox as well on a trade. I mean, that's something the Red Sox needed to get ahead here of at least Toronto going into play and the Rays. So that's going to be huge for them.
So let's talk about it. The biggest deal of the day, though, today was team of your, you got a background. You know, Josh Hader getting shipped out of the Brewers to the Padres.
To the Padres, yeah. So
why was that deal done? Because I mean, this is kind of a big question mark. I know Hader's always been in these trade talks, but he's their closer for a team that's, you know, has playoff potential or is in contention here.
It's that month of July that's what killed him. I think he blew, 4 or 5 saves. He has over a 12 ERA in 9 innings. Actually, just over a little bit of 9 innings in July alone, and it's just killed him. It's just killed the mood going into play for the bullpen, trying to finish games, and they thought they needed to make a move. That's where they went in and get Taylor Rodgers, especially to help with that role right there, to help with that bullpen depth. Taylor Rodgers is a young guy, but I think he's one of the guys that's going to be really capable of keeping the consistency going in the late inning bullpen into play. And I think that's what a move they just thought they had to make. It's like, hey, we haven't had a really great end of June, the whole month of July with Hader. Why are we trying to keep this rolling through August and going into playoff time if he's not figuring it out after a month of games? So, you know, they felt like they had to make a move, but they also got a few prospects as well going into play. So they got what they needed, hopefully for depth in the bullpen, but they also got some stuff for the future.
Is it just me, or, you know, is it a lot of more smoke right now than it is fire? Because I mean, you look like 2 days ago, Monday, it was like Ohtani could be getting traded, you know, Soto, Contreras, you know, those are the 3 big names out there. And none of those 3 names look, maybe Wilson Contreras will probably still get traded by tomorrow's deadline, but it doesn't look like Ohtani's getting traded. And it doesn't look like, you know, Soto's getting traded here either. So, I mean, I feel like those 2 deals would have to be deals that get made in the offseason, correct?
You would think so. I don't see Juan Soto leaving Washington if he hasn't left already. The Yankees have already been making deals. The Dodgers have made a deal at least or 2. Padres are making deals like they got Hader.
Have been real close, but
so the Cardinals are actually now finalizing the deal to acquire left-hander Jose Quintana from the Pirates. Yeah. So that's gonna be huge too.
He's a real winner. Not.
Hey, you know what? It's good for the Cardinals. That's, like I said, that's just another.
I hope he does. I hope he does for the Cardinals what he did for the Cubs, and that's give up a lot of home runs and lose a lot of games.
You know, that's probably what you need there. We're going to play. Let's see here. Oh, Dan. What's up, dude? Going on, boys? I want my White Sox to get Ohtani. I don't feel like that's going to happen, unfortunately. I don't see Ohtani going to the White Sox by any means. He's going to go to a big market that isn't afraid to dish out all their young guys there. In the
they made an offer for him. The White Sox made an offer for Ohtani, but that deal didn't get done. The Mets are in on Wilson Contreras. I think that's where they're going to get their big bat from for the Mets. Add Wilson Contreras with that lineup. So they are trying to put their chips in the table there. We'll see what happens there on that deal.
And I think, and then we had a few other moves right going into play. We talked about this a little bit on Saturday, but or was it Saturday? I believe it was Saturday. Luis Castillo going into play, moving from the Reds to the Mariners, another potential club that is looking for some help in pitching. And this is a guy that, he's done actually fairly well for the Reds. And I think going in Seattle, it's going to be a nice fit, have some nice offense to back you up, unlike in Cincinnati. And I just think overall, this is actually a solid deal for the Mariners and Luis himself.
Yeah, this gives the Mariners a number one ace, right? Like a guy that they haven't had since probably, Felix Hernandez, King Felix. There is a guy that,
sucks at you. Yeah,
I know that, Dan. I know that, and I hate that trade. I'm trying to keep my blood pressure low and profanity at a minimum here, and you're bringing up bad trades, Dan.
We're talking a little. The Cubs haven't fully been involved yet, but we're getting there.
Yes.
Another guy that another move that happened in play is also Andrew Benintendi for the Royals. Solid guy we got from the Red Sox a couple years ago. Really developed into play as becoming almost pretty much our best player this year so far because Perez has been hurt and he's just coming off the IL now. But this is a hot hand and a guy that can, Gold Glove I think winner last year too. So that's gonna be huge for the Yankees. Hopefully they can figure out the vaccine situation with him because he was one of those guys down in Toronto. But, I mean, you're playing for a contender. You're playing for a best team in the league, essentially. I'd imagine you're probably going to take care of that here.
Yeah, he'll get the Fauci ouchie 100%. I think that had to been a deal where the Yankees called him, right, and said, hey, you got to get vaccinated and we'll trade for you. And he'll be like, yeah, I'll do it, right? Like, I mean, you're not going to be in contention. You don't care. You're not going to go to Canada too many times. We're playing in Kansas City. But now with the Yankees, that's a team that obviously in their division and a team they could possibly see in the playoffs.
Yeah, and you're going from worst to first. So, you can't.
Legitimately the worst team in baseball to the best team in baseball.
Yeah, like you can't really hate on that here going into play. But yeah, I mean that's some of the big moves there. Dodgers acquiring another hand with Chris Martin from the Cubs. So we talked about Luis Castillo already.
The Yankees got Scott Everfrost from the Cubs too, a really good bullpen guy.
There you go.
And the Cubs just got one of their top prospects in that trade coming back.
Yeah, and we talked about the Mets a little bit too. Daniel Vogelbach, big bat coming into play. A guy that for the Pirates there that now is a Met, which they only gave up Colin Holderman, which isn't it's a young guy, but it's all right. It's just a big bat I think the Mets needed. Somebody that can help clean up the bottom side of the lineup when it comes to play and maybe take care of some of those lobs they have issues with going into play in late innings. So I love this move. Strong lefty, big bat, big guy. Super excited to see exactly what he does there as a Met.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next 24 hours, and we'll try to get try to get our guy Grisham on next week to break everything down for us.
Yeah, he's been a little busy there, and in the summer, guys, he's camp, his alpha performance stuff going in, nationals coming into play. Colleges and stuff happening, like it's a lot going on. So, but we're gonna get him on here. Hopefully next week, if not the week after. So we'll make it work with him. So, but yeah, that's kind of a quick update around what's going on in the MLB trade deadline there going into play. Bodkins, you ready?
Oh yeah.
Hey, here we go. Bodkins UFC Minute begins now.
Oh man, I can't. It's hard for me to keep everything under a minute. I don't know. I always said a minute, but
Right.
so this past week we had UFC 277. I mean, on paper it wasn't that great of a card, but man, this card delivered. Top to bottom, 4 finishes up until the main event. The main event was Amanda Nunes versus Juliana Pena. Heck of a 5-round fight. Amanda Nunes reclaims her women's bantamweight title, becomes the first ever double champ 2 times, because she was already double champ once, lost her bantamweight title to Juliana Pena back in December, regains that. In the co-main event, Brandon Moreno wins the interim flyweight title in a heck of a fight between him and Kai Car-France. A kidney kick ends Kai Car-France. I mean, just a deadly kick by Brandon Moreno to Kai Car-France, puts Kai Car-France down. Moreno gets on top of him, finishes out. That was kind of the fight of the night. Big wins out of my boy Derek Lewis lost. He was knocked out. He was knocked out by Sergey Pavlovich. I have my notes here actually from this weekend show. Alexander Pantoja had a huge win, won in about 30 seconds over Alex Perez to make a claim that he should be the number 1 contender in the flyweight division. Mahagad Ankalaev, nice win to also in the light heavyweight to over Anthony Smith to prove that he could be a number 1 contender. So there's a lot of number 1 contenders, 2 title fights on that card. And man, it delivered an action-packed full of fights this past Saturday on UFC 277. To get more detailed on that, Tanner, and more in depth, check out our Head Kicks and Haymakers show. You can check that out on Let's Talk Sports and the Bodkin Show channel. That we did a UFC post show of UFC 277, so that'll get a little bit more detail there.
Yeah, any fights this weekend?
There is some fights this weekend, man. The major fight in the light heavyweight fight, it's Thiago Santos versus Jermaine Hill. It's like an up and comer, like Hill's up and comer, trying to break into that top 5 of the light heavyweight. He's fighting Thiago Santos, is a guy who has fought John Jones for the title. Has been around the top 5 for the last few years. So that's the major fight, but we'll kind of talk about that fight on Sunday's Head Kicks and Haymakers show. You can catch that again on Let's Talk Sports and the Bodkins channel.
Awesome. Excited to see. I love the new title, the new logo, and everything with that show. Looks pretty cool.
Yeah, we're gonna be bringing a UFC talk every Sunday. So and then when it's a pay-per-view, we'll do a pre-show on Saturday.
Oh, that's awesome. Good stuff. So what else you got going on this week here?
So Wednesday we'll do the weekly Bodkins wrap-up show. Again, you'll be able to catch that on Let's Talk Sports and the Bodkins channel. And then Sunday we'll do Head Kicks and Haymakers. We'll talk about those fights and kind of bring you up in all the MMA it was. Sunday night we always do the interview style. We have Ray Hayes. He is a amateur fighter. I'm pulling up his stats right now as we speak. Ray Hayes, he is a Fight Hard lightweight champion from Fight Hard MMA. He's got a fight coming up next Saturday, not this Saturday, but the following Saturday. So we're going to talk a little bit of that fight, his background. So Ray Hayes, amateur fighter Ray Hayes, will be coming on the Bodkin Show Sunday.
Awesome, dude. That's awesome lineup right there. Guys, Let's Talk Sports has shows daily throughout the day. Guys, make sure you guys tune in to Let's Talk Sports channel and view out, see what's upcoming there. Like I said, some exciting stuff coming into play. Roku, Fire TV, Apple TV coming into play as well. We'll be on there, so that's exciting news to come. Fantasy University also going to be getting here very shortly. On that lineup should be announced this week, I believe. And then trying to think here. I think that's the most updated news I know about. Make sure you check those guys out daily. Myself, guys, Wednesday we are going to Chiefs training camp. We will have a day show. This is not a division breakdown show this week here. So we'll do a Settling the Kingdom special, training camp special on Wednesday instead of a Sports Buffoons podcast. Then Saturday, you'll find us here on Let's Talk Sports on the Buffoons Network and on the Bodkins Network for our Saturday chat with Dan on Let's Talk Sports. And then Sunday, we're not open Sunday, so Monday we're back here for Buffoon and Bodkins. So a lot to go in, guys. A lot going on here. Hopefully I can start. I'm hoping to start here doing a couple mock drafts throughout the week as well. Just going live and doing some mocks, chatting with some people. So we'll see what happens there. We're gonna get some people on with me, do a mock on sleeper or something. So, but yeah, lots of cool stuff coming into play, guys. It's football season. We got tons of stuff going on, tons of stuff planned. So just keep an eye out. So, Nick, any final words?
Nah, man, appreciate it. Hey, also check out yesterday's episode of the Bodkins Show. I mentioned it earlier, but I wanted to plug it again real fast. It was an awesome time with my guy Cordell Woodland. He is host of Shaking It Up Sports on 105.7 The Fan out of Baltimore. Had an incredible story about the late great John Thompson, the former Georgetown football coach, our basketball coach. Sorry, we talk Georgetown, we talk Allen Iverson, we get into Lamar and his contract situation. We talk all Ravens. We talk, Cordell's background and that great story about the late great John Thompson. So again, head over there, check that out, man. It was awesome time. So. Yeah, that's it, man.
I need to watch. I need to watch from the beginning. I hopped in late there, towards probably the last 10, 15 minutes. So I need to start that over then. If we're talking John Thompson here, so I love that stuff.
Yeah, I could have went for like an hour on with him about Georgetown alone, but I was trying to get back to the Raven stuff. But I was like, man, I could have sat there and talked Georgetown and basketball for a while.
That's awesome. Good stuff. All right, guys. Well, catch us here next week here on the Sports Buffoons, Nick Bodkins, and the Let's Talk Sports channel. And we'll catch you guys next time. Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the Buffoons and Bodkins show. Make sure you hit that bell, subscribe, and follow for more content. Swing over to the Bodkins show, subscribe and follow for him. And then also swing over to the Let's Talk Sports Network and go subscribe to him because it's phenomenal for what he does. And there's a lot more to come on that channel between us as well. So make sure you guys do that. Thank you for watching.